I Am Angus is brought to you by the Igenity Profile for Angus, helping Angus producers everywhere to accelerate genetic progress and reduce risk in genetic investment.
I loved spending time in the barn growing up. You couldn't pull me out of the barn. Like I showed cattle and sheep and pigs. Used to be my favorite thing to do when I was little is to fly back to Michigan to my grandma and grandpa's farm, and I'd get to pick out my 4-H steers, and then I'd spend fall break out there, and a couple months later we would meet my grandparents in Nebraska. I grew up in Colorado, and my steers would be in the trailer, and then my aunt and uncle are actually Christmas tree farmers, so our Christmas tree and my steers would be on the trailer. I think I was pretty young when someone, I think it was my dad, told me that I liked to argue too much to be anything but a lawyer. I'm kind of competitive by nature, and I really like the idea of if you're working on a legal issue, sometimes you've got to take a stand and you've got, to fight for whatever your position is. So those things, just from a personality standpoint, all kind of draw me to the law and law school. I don't know if I really realized that's where I was going until mid-high school, when the beef checkoff program, there was a constitutional challenge and the Supreme Court actually heard it, and I thought it was absolutely fascinating. I read my first case brief and just thought it was the most interesting thing I'd ever heard of. I tried to talk about it all the time to my friends at lunch, and they're like, we're 16, we want to talk about boys. And I wanted to talk about the beef checkoff program and what it does for the industry and the different arguments these sides had about the constitutionality of the program. Topeka, America, you would think that of anywhere people would understand ag and still have some sort of a connection there, but a lot of them really don't. There's a gap there. There's a gap there, and there's a lot of intelligent people that don't know a lot about the ag industry, what we do every day, where their food comes from. So it's really exposed me to kind of this gap that needs to be closed. When I was in the College of Ag at Kansas State University, most everybody understood the kinds of issues that we face. Most everybody understood why I was passionate about what I do. And I've had lots of conversations in law school where people will just sit down next to me and say, why cows? They don't understand that passion, and it's been really cool for me to be able to share that passion with people we might not be reaching otherwise. The average person in America is a couple generations removed from the farm, and increasingly that's more and more true of our legislators as well. They don't necessarily come from farm backgrounds like they would have a couple generations ago. When I'm sitting in class in law school or at the library studying, a lot of times when I read something, I read something through the lens of what does this mean to a beef producer? What does this mean to the agriculture industry? And, when you're in property class and you're learning about eminent domain, it means a lot to us. Environmental law affects us greatly. So I think that every time I pick up a book or sit down in class, I'm able to relate those issues to our industry, and I think that that is one of the things that helps me feel engaged, helps me realize that what I'm doing is relevant and is going to continue to be relevant in the future. But I'm going to law school for these 3 years so I can make a difference for the ag industry and the beef industry in particular. Yeah, I enjoy law school. It's not the way I want to spend the rest of my life, but when I get to go out and spend time with ranchers and spend time looking at cattle, that's what really fires me up.